Just about all homeowners will have to hire a contractor someday to have work done on their homes. Do you know how to go about finding a good one? And do you know how to avoid getting scammed? I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
Our guest today, Jane Kreidler, is the Outreach Coordinator for Contractors State License Board. In this capacity, she oversees outreach activities throughout the state of California. Prior to joining this organization in 2011, Jane had held various positions with the state of California for over 30 years. Welcome, Jane. So good to have you here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Tell us, first of all, about Contractors State License Board.
Well, the Contractor State License Board is under the umbrella of the California Department of Consumer Affairs. It is one of the 40-plus boards and bureaus that is under the Department of Consumer Affairs. And we have been around since 1929, and we license and regulate the construction industry in California. And one of the important things that we do is we want to educate the public, especially seniors, about construction, contractors, and home repair fraud, because it is just rampant.
So why do you think seniors are particularly vulnerable to scams?
Seniors are vulnerable to scams because they hold the wealth. They've worked hard all of their life. They have a nest egg. Usually their homes are paid for. The scammers are hoping that they have memory loss, and some do and don't realize it. They're also hoping that they can intimidate them, that they can confuse them. They also know that many, especially women, live alone because they usually outlive men. So there's a lot of different reasons, but it's very unfortunate that seniors are the number one targeted group.
It really is unfortunate because they're the ones who can least afford to be scammed.
Right. Many of them are living on fixed incomes, and their wealth is really in their asset, which is their home.
Mm-hmm. What is the first thing a homeowner should consider when hiring a contractor?
The first thing, I believe, is not to hire someone who solicits them. Very important that the homeowner solicits the contractor, especially people who are coming to the door through the phone or through the mail. They really are strangers. So it's being careful where you find your contractor. Also realizing that it could take a little while. You don't want to rush into making a hasty decision because it could cost you more money later, or it could just cost you a lot of money the very first time.
So how can a homeowner find a reputable contractor?
That's such a good question, and I get that question a lot. We cannot recommend. Because it's like, you love all of your children the same. So we license all of them. Really, it's word of mouth is a good way. Also, if a contractor has done somebody harm, it's going to be on the internet. If you Google the name of the contractor or the name of the company and they have not done good jobs for people, we do tend to complain on the internet, so you can find it there. Also, it's a good usually material suppliers know who the good contractors are.
Oh, that's
because
a good
the
idea.
Contractors will come in and they'll get supplies. Well, they know if they're getting cheaper material because they provide the material. Sometimes building departments, although not always, it depends on where you live as to whether the building department might recommend someone. So there's various ways to find them, even though if you get a reference, a word of mouth reference from friends or relatives, it's always still a good idea to interview more than one.
So why is it so important to interview more than one?
You know, the price alone, the cost alone would be an incentive for me. And we know that we all love sales and deals. We don't want the deal on our home necessarily because that person that gives you the low bid might be unlicensed. But you want to compare. For example, there was a homeowner recently that had a walk-in tub put in, paid $15,000. Had no idea that was a horrendous price because she didn't get 3 bids. So it's always good to compare the prices with the bids.
And what are the risks of hiring somebody who's not licensed?
Oh, where do I begin? There are reasons that people can't get licensed. It could be their criminal history. We do stings every week in the state.
Really?
Yes, and we call people in to give us bids, and many of them are unlicensed. Many of them are repeat offenders, meaning they have gotten caught in stings before.
Now, how do you choose these people to call?
We get a lot of them off of Craigslist.
Oh.
And that is not to say that every person on Craigslist is not licensed, but we get several, or like the local paper, the throwaways, like the penny saver, or, you know. So online bulletin boards like Craigslist, and local papers, sometimes advertisements that we'll see, you know, on a post on the street or something. We get them from various places.
So you look at these venues and choose them at random?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, people can offer to loan us their home for a day or their commercial property.
See. Okay.
So we you know, the reason that these people can't get licenses, we catch people who have had, you know, who are sex offenders. Sometimes they're not registered, sometimes they are. But, you know, we would not license them and have them go into people's homes because we wouldn't feel comfortable with the consumer protection aspect. So also hiring someone unlicensed, if they get hurt on your property, you're liable because they don't have workers' comp.
Right.
They also don't have the skill set. They also don't have the bond. We require them to have a $12,500 bond. So that kind of helps the consumer if they're harmed. Let's say the contractor, you know, does a bad job and they have to get the job redone, they can pull from that bond. So you have more reassurance, plus we can help you. We can also take complaints against unlicensed contractors. Very difficult to find them, but if we do find them, we cannot make them pay restitution to the consumer.
You can or cannot?
Cannot, because
you cannot.
They're not licensed.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
our teeth is only with licensed contractors.
So what can be done if you find the unlicensed contractor?
Well, if you do your homework, you're not going to hire one. So that's the key, is doing the homework. So you're going to interview the contractors. You're going to have them give you their contractor's license number. Now, anybody can make up a number, but that's why then you're going to call us or jump on our website, and you're going to check and make sure the contractor is licensed, and if the contractor has employees, that they have workers' comp.
Now, if we find that the person is licensed, would you also on your website or by phone have information about any complaints?
Yes. If they are substantiated complaints, it will be on the website, and we can tell you.
Great.
So that's another thing that you want to find out, is whether the contractor is in good standing.
Great. Now, how about unsolicited door-to-door offers to do repairs?
That's where a lot of the scams do come in. They'll make up something. They'll say, you know, I saw there's a problem with your roof, or you need new concrete, or they'll make up some story, and then they will try to get into your home, and they use the scare tactics, and they try to intimidate you. They also will not provide a written contract, and they only will take cash. We had a case, a lady she didn't have the cash in her home, so the contractor said, "Oh, I don't want you to have to use your gas. I will drive you to the ATM." You know, they're very smooth. Of course, he wasn't a licensed contractor, but you never know what the angle is with people who are coming to your door, whether they're trying to, you know, do home repair work or anything else. And another case we had was a person was going through a neighborhood, and they know where the elderly people live. Whether they're elderly or not, they know. And so he said, he knocked on a lady's door and he said, I was just at your neighbor's house and the neighbor was having problems with their water pressure. I'm here and I would like to check your water pressure if you'd like me to help you. And so that scared her. And so she said, sure. So he came in the house and they turned on the water. Well, he had already turned it off outside. So the water pressure was low. And he said, oh, I can fix that for you for, $300. And so she thought he was the savior. So she said, oh, okay. And he just went back out and turned the water on and got the money and went down the street. So people who come to your door, contractors who are legitimate licensed contractors don't have time to be going door to door.
So that's really something to keep in mind.
Yes.
How about people who make offers of free inspections?
Free grace. Nothing is for free.
Really?
No. Free or low-cost inspections, they're going to find a problem. There's a reason they're trying to get into your home. It's either to lighten your pocketbook or come back later and maybe, help themselves to some things around your home, get you to sign some kind of paperwork where you've put personal information down, such as your Social Security number, driver's license. So they have an angle.
How about if someone says, I have extra materials
Yeah, that's a
and
common.
I can do the job for you really cheap?
That is so common. And in Santa Clara County and Alameda County, we have problems with that with concrete people.
Oh.
They'll say, oh, it looks like your driveway needs to be repaved or, resealed. And we have materials and we're in the neighborhood and we're going to give you a deal because we're in the neighborhood. And there again, it's the scare tactic. It's the make a decision right now. And, if the deal is good today, the deal will be good in a week. And that's what the homeowner needs to think about. Also, the homeowner needs to think, wait a minute, I can't allow this person to do work for me on the spot because I have to get 3 bids. And if the homeowner says that, leave your information because I have to check with the contractors board or I need to get more bids or I don't make a decision the same day, whatever they want to say, that person will never come back.
Okay. So how about if the contractor says he really doesn't need a permit to do this particular job?
So that is common with unlicensed people because they cannot pull permits. Licensed contractors pull permits from building departments on a regular basis.
So unlicensed people cannot pull the permits at all?
Now the homeowner can, and this is where the confusion can come in because if he says to the homeowner, I will give you a deal if you pull the permit or if you be the owner builder, then there could be more problems. And when contractors or unlicensed people ask the homeowner to be an owner builder, that creates a lot of problems for the homeowner. Anybody who works on the home, they have to pay payroll taxes. It gets messy. So unless you are a contractor who wants to be an owner builder or someone who's very knowledgeable about construction, need to be very careful about that, about being an owner builder. But yes, if they him and haw on a building permit, that would be a red flag. Now, if they're a legitimate licensed contractor and they know there's no permit required, they may say that. But I would always check with the building department and make sure that a permit is required.
Check with
the local building department in your city or county.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they're the ones that administer the building permits.
Now, another thing that you might hear is, what if the contractor says, we've run into unforeseen problems after you've already discussed the price?
And, really that can happen because if the contractor gets in there, let's say it's a bathroom remodel and you're putting in a new shower and they get behind there and they're ripping everything out and they find dry rot, they would not have known that beforehand.
Right.
So that does happen. That does come up. But you have to make sure that change orders then are added to the contract. Anytime there's a change to the original contract, that needs to be added. Some wording to the effect of, dry rot found, so, it's going to cost an additional whatever the amount is.
So always get it in writing.
Everything in writing and signed by both the contractor and the homeowner.
Okay. And what if the contractor uses subcontractors without letting you know first? Is that required that they always let the homeowner know first?
I don't know that it's required, but I think some contractors, they're just used to using subcontractors and they just do their job. But here's the problem with that. You want to make sure that in the beginning you have a detailed contract that lists the subcontractors and their license numbers because you want to check.
So all the subcontractors have to be licensed too.
Yes, they do. And so yes, you want to make sure they're licensed because just like the contractor, the general contractor, you want to make sure that they're in good standing and they're licensed.
Now, how did this big public works program have unlicensed subcontractors?
It's funny, just like consumers, cities or counties or whoever are doing these projects need to check. If you have a city building a building, they need to do their due diligence and their homework just like a homeowner would do.
But the contractor knew that his subcontractors should be licensed, so
Yes.
they were
And
not.
some use unlicensed because it's cheaper for them and ultimately the homeowner supposedly. Along with the subcontractors, you also want to know who the material supplier is because you want to make sure they get paid. Also, should be in the contract.
I see. Okay, now how about down payments? Does the homeowner have to pay for the materials before the work begins?
And that's an interesting question because the down payment should be 10% or $1,000, whichever is less of the entire contract. So let's say the contract is $50,000. So 10% is $5,000, but $1,000 is less. So you would pay the $1,000.
I see.
And in the contract, there's going to be a payment schedule. So, as the work goes along, you'll give a chunk of money. And so you never let the payments get ahead of the work. Now, if a contractor comes to you and says, I need more money up front for the materials, that would be a red flag because they should be able to cash flow their business. What it tells me is possibly they didn't have enough money for the last job, and your job is paying for the last job.
Oh, I
now they
see.
have to go out and get another job to pay for your job. So that would be a red flag.
So that's a red flag. So
Now, the only difference in the 10% or 1,000 rule is if you were to go to one of these big box hardware stores like Lowe's or Home Depot, and you, let's say, buy carpet, they will ask for all of the money up front. And they can do that because they have a special exemption and bond. Sears is the same way. Any of these large corporations that do home improvement, that's the only difference. You don't have to pay the $1,000 down. You would pay the whole amount.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, what do you do if you want to change something after you've signed the contract?
So let's say you wanted black tile and you decided you wanted to change it to white tile. Just make sure there's a change order. And that happens frequently when especially if you're doing a remodel, you'll say, oh, I feel like I want a half wall here instead of a full wall or something. And it's very common to have change orders, but just make sure they're all in writing and signed.
Okay. And I've heard about something about a mechanic's lien.
Yes.
Now, what is it exactly, and how can a homeowner be assured that a mechanic's lien won't be placed on the home?
Well, by doing their homework, by doing the things that we've talked about. But a mechanic's lien is a claim placed against your property by either the contractor, the subcontractor, or the material supplier because they did not get paid. So let's say you pay the prime contractor and they do not pay the subcontractors or the material supplier. They can put a lien on your property.
Oh,
they
really?
can even make you foreclose. They can foreclose your home. So you won't do that though, Grace. You won't get caught, nor will your listeners, because you will have an ironclad contract. And there's ways to not have that happen. Writing joint checks, they're required to give you a preliminary notice where the subcontractors and the suppliers sign off that they've been paid. There are safeguards put in place that help you not be in that situation.
Tell me more about the safeguards.
Well, it would be the joint check, so that if you write the check to the contractor and the subcontractor, they have to both basically take it to the bank and cash it, and then
Both the contractor and subcontractor.
So that's a good one. Also, if you you have the subcontractor sign off on that they have been paid, that the work is done and they've been paid, that right there, you've got a legal document basically. So if they try to put a lien on your home, you can say they've signed off, they did get paid.
I see. Now, why would a subcontractor sue the homeowner rather than the contractor?
Because the contractor hasn't paid and continues not to pay is probably the
right,
case.
but it's the contractor who is responsible for paying the subcontractor.
Ultimately, the homeowner is responsible because the homeowner paid the contractor, and the subcontractor, yes, works for the contractor, but if they're not going to get the money out of the contractor, they're going to get it from somebody, and that would be the homeowner. Yeah.
That doesn't seem fair.
It really doesn't, does it?
No.
And sometimes you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork involved to a lien, but sometimes homeowners don't know that a lien has even been placed on their home. Now, they should know, but there are times when, if you have somebody really crooked doing business, sometimes you won't know. So,
but that can be avoided.
It can be
I hired the
avoided
right licensed contractor in the first place, right?
Right.
And also, I'm just curious, why is it called a mechanic's lien?
That's a good question. I have no idea. The term has been around since the 1850s. That's when
really?
the law was on the books.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now, here's another issue. What if the contractor begins the work and then leaves and won't return the homeowner's phone calls and the homeowner can't contact him again?
Yeah, you just want to slap them, don't you? Here's the problem. That usually happens with unlicensed. What happens is they'll come to the door, they'll get a bunch of cash, they'll start the work and say, oh, I have to go get some supplies, and then they'll never return. Now, with licensed contractors, we do have some that abandon the job. That's when you call us. We have a call center, and we will try to get a hold of the contractor and work the complaint. You have to file a complaint, and we'll start working it. And a contractor does not want to have a bad mark against the license because that affects their business. So usually we can mediate, get that contractor back on the job. We mediate. I don't know what the percentage is, and I want to say it's around 50%, but we mediate the complaints before they go further. And so we really try to get the homeowner and the contractor on the same page.
Now, if mediation doesn't resolve the problem, what is the next step that your agency will participate in?
We'll send out an investigator, and we'll investigate the whole job.
Oh, I see.
And then we have two avenues. Depending on how egregious it might be, we can file criminally with the local DA's office, or we can file administratively against their license and go through the Attorney General's office. And what happens with that is their license can be suspended or revoked. Now, criminally, they can go to jail, and we can do both. So it depends on how bad it is. And I just want to say that you've got one bad apple, and it spoils the whole bunch, right?
Right.
And so even though we license over 300,000 contractors in 43 different classifications.
Really? That many?
It's a lot. You might have a few that are bad. It's just the way it is. But we don't want them to harm others. So we do want to hear the complaints from the consumers.
So do you know what percentage are bad?
We get approximately 20,000 complaints a year, but that is on both licensed and unlicensed.
Oh,
so what is that, about 3% or so? So I don't know the percentage of licensed versus unlicensed, but we can discipline unlicensed. We just don't have any teeth to make them pay restitution. We can give them a fine, which, And really what we want is we want the unlicensed people to become licensed if they can.
Right.
And help people not be unlicensed.
Now, what else can you do about the unlicensed contractors?
I'll have to tell you, statewide, there's a big effort, a big push, because it's part of the underground economy where they don't pay taxes, they don't pay payroll taxes, they don't have workers' comp. So really it affects a lot of areas. The state loses a lot of money from the underground economy, and not just contracting. But there are task forces. We are involved in 2 task forces statewide with other agencies that try to find the unlicensed people. We really, you know, our resources are somewhat limited. You know, we don't have a lot of staff to go do that. But if let's say the building department rolls by a job and finds out someone's unlicensed and they give us a call, we can go out and we can give them a notice to appear, a stop order, make them stop the work, which is not of benefit to the homeowner ultimately, because they've hired this person and now they have to hire someone else.
Right.
So it really affects everybody, but we try to catch them, and some of them do jail time depending if they're out on parole or whatever the reason, they can go back to jail. We try to stop it. It's difficult.
It must be difficult, though, because I'm sure often you just can't find them.
They're
right?
everywhere. You know, they're, like you say, they're going door to door. They're calling. We've shut down several that were HVAC. We're having a lot of problems with HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning
Oh, I
people.
see.
So you know, we'll clean your air ducts for $59.99. Not saying they're all unlicensed, but many of them are unlicensed. And then they get up into the attic and they find problems. So that $59.99 turns into $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000, and there's no problems. That's a very common problem right now.
Oh, I see. So if we do have a problem, we should contact your agency? Is that the
Yes.
best thing to do?
If for people who are internet savvy, we have an online complaint form, and all they have to do is fill it out. If you're not, we have a call center. We do have a phone tree, so you have to go through the phone tree, but we will take your complaint over the phone or send you a form.
Okay. So you can send it through the mail
Yes,
also
you can
to
send
us.
it through the mail,
Because
definitely.
not everyone
Not
is computer
everyone.
savvy, especially the seniors
Right.
who are often scammed, as
And
you said.
You're right, and that's why we have the call center. Now, I know that seniors don't like the phone tree, but if they press 0, they can get to someone
Oh, I
faster.
see. Okay. That's a good tip. Well, this has been so informative, Jane. Thank you so much for being with us today. I
You're
think
welcome.
you've given us a lot of valuable information.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. I hope you found our program informative. Be sure to also watch our shows on YouTube. See you again next week on The Better Part. Bye-bye.